Hello and welcome to this session from the Center for First Year Experience called Help, I Bombed My First Exam. Today's topic will be about a tool that we use called an exam wrapper, and we help students either use the tool to reflect on a recent exam that they maybe didn't do as well on as they hoped, or just even after any exam that you want to take some time and think about how can I improve for my next exam. So as you can see before us, we have a copy of our exam wrapper. This is also available via our website, clarion.edu/firstyear. And if you go under the skills clinics, there's a link there to the exam wrapper. And so what we want to start with when you start to think about, okay, I just took a test, I didn't do as well as I'd hoped, the first thing we want to ask ourselves is, did you attend all the class sessions leading up to that test? And so if it's a yes, a no, can't remember, whatever that answer is, that can maybe tell you a lot about why you didn't do as well as you had hoped on your exam. Because even if you missed one class, you maybe missed that entire day's notes, or even if you borrowed a friend's notes and copied those down, there was maybe some rich information that you missed by not being in class a day or more leading up to the test. The second question is to think about how much effort did you put into preparing for the exam. 10 would be a lot, meaning that you spent all of your time leading up to the exam getting ready for it, or all the way down to a 1, meaning very little. Ideally, you do want to be in the 7 or 8 range on this scale as far as the effort that you have put in. If it is more of a difficult subject for you, we want you at a 10, spending as much time as possible getting ready for that exam, and even the amount of days ahead of time that you did start to prepare. So did you spend a lot of time for just 2 days before the exam versus did you spend, a pretty good or fair amount of time for up to a week before the exam? So again, leading with that into the next question, how many hours did you spend studying to prepare for your exam? And were these hours spread out evenly over a few days, a few weeks, or were they compressed to only, the 2 days or 1 day, worst case, before the exam? So again, just using these questions to reflect and think about how can we improve more for next time. Another question to help you think about how you prepared for your exam is, what % of time did you spend doing the following? Were you rereading your notes versus reading and highlighting in the textbook? Rewriting your notes, so this is going beyond just kind of skimming over notes that you've taken. This is actually doing something a little bit more active in your studying. This can include making a study guide from your notes or making your own flashcards, whether that's on paper or using a website like Quizlet to create your own flashcards. How much time did you spend quizzing yourself, or whether that's alone or with a study group? So even just changing the dynamic of sitting alone and studying for your test versus actually getting with a group of friends or just one friend to help quiz each other. Another thing to think about is, after closing my text, or if you read a chapter, you read a page, did you write summaries of the concepts that were in the chapter? That can be a really good technique to help you prepare for exams. Did you work with a tutor or go directly to the professor during their office hours to prepare for this exam? And then maybe you have some other techniques that you use, so there's a space for other. So once you kind of go through those, you want to think about, did I spend too much time just rereading my notes? Was 90% of my studying spent doing just that? And can I, kind of spread that out percentage-wise over a few other different ways and methods? Because the more different ways that you study, the more likely you are to be more successful on the test. So again, using this as a reflection tool. When you completed the exam, how did you think you were going to do? What letter grade were you thinking you were going to get, or what % did you think you were going to get? If there's a disconnect between what you actually got and what you were hoping or thought you got, again, that might be an indication of something's going on in your studying or your learning, that you aren't quite hitting your targets or your goals. And then how did your grade actually match with that? Question number 6, was it higher or lower than what you had hoped? We do have a little bit more to help you reflect on your exams on the second page of our exam wrapper. So on the back, what we want you to do is actually sit down with your test. So this might require you to go to the faculty member's office hours to have the test if they don't give it back to you, or if they only give like a Scantron back. But what you want to do is actually look at the questions that you missed and then start to think about why did you miss them. So we have some examples of what may have caused you to miss or get the wrong answer. So maybe the information, the first one we have just as an example, the information was not in my notes. So again, that might go back to you missed a class, or you borrowed a friend's notes that weren't as good, or whatever. Maybe the reason you missed that question was you studied this for recognition, not for actually being able to recall the information. So you thought, if you saw a multiple choice option, you'd be able to pick out the answer, and maybe that wasn't the case. So as you see, there are lots of options that you may have for why you missed the question, but as you go through each question, so if you missed question 2 and you say it was because of reason B, and then you missed question 5 because of reason F, basically what you're looking for here is, are there any patterns as to why you missed the questions? And so again, that might help us to reflect and think about how can we improve for the future, so that now you don't have as many that say, I totally misunderstood this concept, or you don't have as many questions that you missed because you didn't have that information in your notes. As we get to the end of the exam wrapper, as you sit down with it and really start to think, you want to think about, based on your responses, what are 3 things that you can do differently to be better prepared for your next exam? So that might mean changing up how you study from the front page, or looking at the reasons why you missed some of the questions and again modifying or changing your habits and your behavior. So that's question 8. And then last but not least, we want you to set a goal for yourself for what grade you hope to get on your next exam. So is it that you want to improve by a certain percentage, or do you want to see a certain letter grade? But really setting a goal and then thinking about, how can I improve? What do I need to change so that I can do better on my next exam? So just to wrap up, as you can see, we have this tool called an exam wrapper. We are happy as your student success coach to sit down with you and walk you through how to use this tool as you finish a test, or as you get a test back midway through the semester, or at any point in the semester. So feel free to reach out to us. We are on the 4th floor of Becht Hall, and so we look forward to working with you, and thank you for joining us on our session on exam wrappers.